going to go live. All right, we're now live. So, one of the reasons why I stopped right here in Truth in Renting is because the Truth in Renting is a document, a pamphlet that must be provided to all the tenants by the landlord. Okay? And most landlords don't even know about this. It says right here, the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs publishes an annual updated statement on the rights and duties of residential landlords and tenants. Included in this pamphlet is information on eviction procedures, building maintenance requirements, and rents and lease provisions. As I said, landlords must give a copy to every tenant and post a copy on the property. Did you guys ever see this Truth in Renting thing?
No.
No, but it's a requirement.
What happens if you don't have it?
That's right.
What happens if you're, a landlord and don't have
You
it?
might get fined, but for that, somebody needs to complain. Now, here's something else that you guys probably do not know. Disclosure of owners and managers. You might not even be able to evict somebody unless landlords, they're required to inform the tenants of the names of and the addresses of owners of the property, officers of a corporation that may own the building, resident managers, managing agents, superintendents, and mortgage holders. So your tenants must have this information, but not only the tenants, look what it says next. The disclosure also must be filed with local governments and state agencies. Now, this is a law that's been around for a very long time. Most municipalities have ignored it. But I'm telling you now, if you go to court to try to evict somebody, especially in Newark, one of the announcements that they're making right at the beginning of the session is, landlords, if you guys are not registered with the city of Newark, you can leave now. So it's like case dismissed until you register. Then you bring a case. Okay? Because it is a requirement. There's nothing the landlords can do about it. You have to register with the town. Okay? Questions? No questions so far? Great. All right. On the right-hand side on top, we have Americans with Disability Act. Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disability Act has had significant impact on the responsibilities of property managers, both in building amenities and employment issues. On the third paragraph, it says, property managers must also be familiar with Title III of the ADA, which prohibits discrimination in commercial properties. So when we're talking about the Americans with Disability Act, right, we're talking about discrimination in commercial properties against people with disabilities. Okay? Now, the ADA requires that managers ensure that people with disabilities have full and equal access to facilities and services. Everybody, regardless of their disability or not, should have the same type of access. So we're going to skip something real quick, because what we're saying is that the facility must have full equal access, but to protect owners of existing structures from the massive expense of extensive remodeling, the ADA recommends, please underline, reasonably achievable accommodations to provide access to the facilities and services. Newer construction, however, meets higher standards, because it's a lot easier than retrofitting. Than like we have an existing structure, let's change everything because of somebody in a wheelchair. All right? I'm not discriminating against people in wheelchairs. What we're trying to say here is that existing barriers must be removed when this could be done in a readily achievable manner. And that is with little difficulty and at low cost. So it's only considered discrimination if you could have done this in an easy and cheap way. Nobody's forcing you to redo the whole building because of that one person, right? But if it was easy enough to make a few changes to accommodate that one person, that's where discrimination comes in, right? For instance, ramping or removing an obstacle from an otherwise accessible entrance, right? It's in the way, move it so people can come through. Lowering wall-mounted public telephones, adding raised letters and braille markings on elevator buttons. These are easy things to do, right? Installing auditory signals in elevators. When the doors open, then we're here, right? Or before they open, they say, hey, this is the one. Reversing the direction in which doors open. Also, handicapped parking spaces for people with disabilities. Is it that hard to mark saying, hey, this is the handicap section? It's not that hard. And that's what we're talking about. Easily achievable. We don't have to restructure the whole building, but if it's something that's obvious, that's reasonable and easily achievable, then why hasn't it been done? Again, to protect people with discrimination. Okay? You guys got this? Mm-hmm. It only applies to commercial buildings, not residential. Next page. We talked about this in chapter 1. It was the end of chapter 1, rental referral services. It's just repeating exactly the same thing we have in chapter 1, so just highlight for now and put stars. If you're referring somebody to rentals, right, you're expected to have a contract if you expect some type of compensation. So if you are to get paid for helping somebody rent, there must be a contract, you must have a license, you must explain the term of the contract, the services to be performed, the fees to be charged, and a refund policy, if any. Okay? On the right-hand side, right above rent control, it says, units that are advertised must be checked every day to see if they're still available. Because if you're making an active advertisement to the general public, you must make sure that your advertisement is true. Is the unit still available? If it's listed, simply listed on the MLS, then every 3 days. Because not everybody has access to the MLS, right? Okay? But actively advertised, you got to check every day to see if it's still available. Rent control. Has anybody ever heard of rent control before?
Yes.
Okay, what is rent control?
They control the prices of it. It can't go above, certain price. It can go below a certain price.
So you're talking about increasing rents, for instance, right? Now, here's what I want to point out. Individual communities set their own rent control regulations, not the state of New Jersey. The state of New Jersey says reasonable increases. Whatever you feel is reasonable, okay? Each individual community has set their own rent control policies and regulations. And some form of rent control is in effect in almost 1/4 of the state's municipalities. 1/4, not like the other 3/4, reasonable increases. But 1/4 of the municipalities say, hey, you can only increase X amount of dollars or X percentage per year, okay? To encourage construction of more housing units, new construction is exempt from rent control while an initial mortgage is in effect. So if it's a new construction, no rent control. Next page, we have eviction. Eviction. A landlord may not evict a tenant without court ruling. We already know this, right? We spoke about it a couple pages ago. But in cases of hardship, a court may allow a tenant, A court may allow a tenant as long as 6 months to find other accommodations. 6 months in cases of hardship. Crazy, right?
What can be described as a hardship?
Specifically, single mother, 4-year-old daughter, middle of winter, no job.
And those 6
My
months,
very first tenant.
That happened to you? It was very specific.
and those 6 months, are you still collecting though? Are you still out? No?
It was like 6 months.
Yep. And some people are professional renters.
I heard about it.
Now, anyway, landlords, we talked about this in chapter 7, condo conversion. Landlords may not evict a tenant because the tenant made a complaint to government agency, but then condo conversion. When the property is being converted to a condominium or co-op, certain tenants with disabilities and those aged 62 or older may not be evicted. The tenant so protected must have occupied the premises for at least 2 years before the conversion and have income no higher than 3 times their county's per capita income, or in any case, no higher than $50,000. If they meet these requirements or these qualifications, they are allowed to continue as tenants, meaning paying tenants, for up to 40 years. Good? Constructive eviction. In front of constructive eviction, before you highlight, in front of constructive eviction, I want you to write, you evict yourself. You evict yourself. Which is crazy, right? You evict yourself? What do you mean? Well, if the landlord fails to provide such basic services necessary for human habitation as heat, electricity, or water, and the premises become uninhabitable, a tenant may claim constructive eviction, move out, and cease paying rent. So if it's unsafe for you to be there, get out. You're not stuck to the 1-year lease because the landlord is the one that breached the agreement. Now the tenant must vacate the property, so get out of the property before claiming constructive eviction. And if asked for advice in such a case, what should you do? Tell the tenant to go find an attorney. Do not give legal advice at all, please. All right, suit for possession is the actual eviction. Everybody knows what this is. You didn't pay, or you're being disruptive, whatever. I'm going to evict you. And the summary proceeding is often called the dispossess proceeding. So the actual eviction is getting you out of possession of the property, because right now you're in possession. So I'm trying to dispossess you or take you out of possession of the property. That's what the eviction is. It's not recovery of monies, because that's a separate lawsuit. Eviction is simply getting you out of where you are. Okay? Questions here? No? Because I learned that with my very first tenant. I thought eviction, I won, I'm getting paid. No, eviction, I won, congratulations, now file a second lawsuit to get money. That's all it was. So 2 lawsuits in order to get paid. One to evict. Once you win that one, you file a second one for recovery of monies. Causes for eviction. It says right here, in New Jersey, the landlord may sue for eviction on the following grounds. Non-payment of rent is one of them. So if they don't pay, look what it says. Notice to quit need not be given before the suit is filed. Meaning, I don't have to send you a letter and say, hey, I'm sure you forgot about the rent. If you don't pay, I'm going to have to evict you. No. If it's for non-payment, I can go straight to court and file eviction against you right away. If it's any of these other causes, then they have a certain amount of days or weeks or months for you to notify. Like disorderly conduct. I got to give you 3 days notice. Say, hey, if you keep on going, I'm going to give you 3 days to fix whatever problem it is. If you keep on going, I'm going to evict you. Okay? If it's destruction of the premises, the same thing. So we have pretty much a fairly painted list of what you can and cannot do. Right? On the right-hand side at the bottom, it says New Jersey's Anti-Eviction Act provides, with only a few exceptions, that tenants who are current with their rent payments may not be evicted solely on the grounds of foreclosure. So as long as you're current, nobody can kick you out of their house. And this is true whether or not the tenant has a written lease. So you were asking me before, it has to be in writing? No. Everything could be verbal. Okay? The new owner has to honor the tenant. Yes?
I have a question. Let's say you own a house, it's a multi-family house, the owner lives in the house as well, but they're taking their house because of lack of payment.
Uh-huh.
Are you still, supposed to be paying rent
Absolutely.
to the owner still?
What do you have to do with the mortgage? So if I don't pay my mortgage, you don't pay me? You don't know the reason why. And this, I get very adamant about this because there's a lot of people that lost their homes unnecessarily. Tenants find out landlord's not paying the mortgage. I'm not paying the landlord. Like, you don't know the reasons why I'm not paying. Maybe I had a medical issue and I had bills to pay for the hospital and I'm catching up. Maybe I switched jobs or lost a job and I'm getting another job, and in between I fell behind. Divorce, death in the family. You don't know the reasons. So if you don't pay me, yeah, I'm definitely going to lose the property. It's already bad enough whatever's happening. Now you don't pay me, yeah, I'm going to lose it. The tenant's obligation, and this is also in the Anti-Foreclosure Act, Anti-Eviction Act. The tenant's obligation is to pay the current owner of record. Once it switches owner, you pay the new owner. Nobody is entitled to live for free, no matter what the reasons are. Unless you're the owner and you paid it off. But you still have to pay taxes.
Which is like
another
mortgage in New Jersey.
Yeah, but you guys can help a lot of homeowners, especially in the upcoming crisis. You guys can help a lot of homeowners just by letting them know that the tenant still has to pay you. If the tenant doesn't pay you, evict them. Simple. Get a new tenant that will pay you, maybe even more because of rent right now. Right? Get a new tenant that will pay you, and you'll be able to catch up. See, for me to get a loan modification, I have to show the bank that even after they've changed the terms of the loan, I will be able to pay. If I don't have a tenant, how am I going to be able to pay the new terms? I can't. So yeah, I need to have paying tenants. Got it? A lot of tenants took advantage of this. A lot.
But they don't pay. So what's the
Court, foreclosure. Eviction. Landlord-tenant has nothing to do with general equity, which is foreclosure. Landlord-tenant, you can evict your tenant for non-payment, even if you're, and I've heard these, when I'm in landlord-tenant court, I used to be, but Your Honor, they're not paying their mortgage. And the judge just rips them a new one. Excuse me? They're not paying their mortgage? Are you the one paying the mortgage? No, but I'm the tenant. They're not paying their mortgage. They're going to lose the house and I'm just making payments? Do you live there? The judge really doesn't care. Do you live there? Do you use the house? Do you take advantage of the benefits of that house? Your Honor, I do, but no buts about it. Done. Pay. Or get out. Simple as that. They don't care. The judges and landlord-tenant, they don't care if you're losing your house or not. The law is, you are a tenant, you are a landlord, you pay landlord. Simple. In fact, when there's a foreclosure, the tenants get notified. We'll talk about this tomorrow when we go into mortgages. The tenants have to be notified of the foreclosure. The court will say, hey, You're in foreclosure, your landlord's in foreclosure, and it says there's a clause that says, you still have to pay your landlord. Clear. Black and white. There's no way for you not to know. You guys got it? Questions? Types of leases. Gross lease is like you're a tenant. You pay $1,500 a month, and the landlord deals with property charges like taxes, insurance, repairs, and everything. These are property charges. The landlord is the one responsible for that. You pay a flat fee. That's why it's called a gross lease. The net lease, the next one, is where you pay rent, and in addition to the rent, you are responsible for a portion of some or all of the property charges. So you might be responsible for taxes, insurance, and maintenance, common areas and stuff, right? So this building, let's say, has $30,000 worth of taxes. It will be divided by all 8 tenants, and then every month the tenants contribute towards their portion of the taxes. So net lease, you pay for the rent plus a percentage of those expenses. When it's a triple net lease, if you ever hear triple net, and in the listing says N, so triple net, means you pay the lease, you pay taxes, you pay insurance, and all other expenses except for debt services. And where it says debt services, I want you to write mortgage or any other financing against the property. Mortgage or any other financing against the property. All right, percentage lease. It's the same thing as the net lease, but with a twist. Percentage lease provides the rentals to be based on a percentage of gross income received by the tenant doing business on a leased property. So let's say that this business right here brings $30,000 a month, as an example. The landlord will receive a flat fee of $1,000 rent plus 5%, let's say, of anything above $30,000. So whatever my business does, the landlord will benefit. But if my business doesn't do, then the landlord loses. Okay? So that's the example right here. The monthly rental is $1,200. 5% of gross sales above $30,000 go to the landlord, whichever is less. You guys got it? Usually we find this in shopping malls because the business is based, it's like me betting on your business. I'll help you. In certain months I'm going to lose, but I hope that your business is that successful that every month I win. So I became almost like your partner somehow.
So basically, usually the rents are cheaper, so then we can ticket them 5%.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
you can say that. Variable leases. So variable leases, as the name says, it's variable. That means your rent is not fixed. It varies. It could go up, it could go down. There's 2 types of variable leases. We have the graduated lease and we have the index lease. Graduated is we start at $500, increases to $750, it goes to $1,000 in certain periods. So let's say the first 6 months, $500 a month. The following 6 months, $750. The following 6 months, it goes to $1,000 until it gets to a point that reaches the value that we established. The index lease goes up and down according to CLI, cost of living index. Right? Question. Has the cost of living decreased? No. So the cost of living has been increasing at a rate of almost 3%, a little bit over 3%. So that means that your rent could increase at 3% every year. You got it? Has your salary increased at 3% every year?
No.
Right? Nobody would ever complain. Back in 1982, it was $1 to go to the movies. Nobody would complain about that, right? Now it's like, it's $100 to take your kids to the movies.
True.
It is. And my kids love to go to the movies.
I used to like it.
Yeah. It became so expensive you don't like it anyway.
No. 2009, I think, was like $10. Now it's like 20 something.
2009 was $10. Where did you go?
A little bit.
It was already like $12 or $13 back then. But anyway, there's certain theaters that have it cheaper. But now you have the options, like for AMC theaters, you have like a membership. I pay $25 a month, and I can watch 3 movies a week. I only watch like 2 a month. Whenever I have my son, we always go to the movies, and I get him like twice a month. So we always go to the movies. Way cheaper.
Tuesdays is 50% off. AMC.
Tuesdays. Ground leases. Ground leases or Theyre leases. Ground leases is we're leasing the land only. Not buildings, nothing, just land, dirt. Here's a 50 by 100 lots, you can do whatever you want. Here's a 100 by 100 lot, do whatever you want. As long as the town allows, I don't care, just pay me mine and we're good. But you are also responsible for taxes, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff. Now, if you're going to build on my property, can I do a 1-year lease? I can, but nobody's going to accept it. So these leases, make sure you're not using your cell phones, I appreciate it. These leases run terms of 50 years or longer and could even go to almost 1,000 years. Because it's just ground. You can do whatever you want on it. If you're going to put $3 million into my property, putting a building like a, I don't know, let's say a pharmacy like Walgreens, or a 99 cent store, whatever. If you're going to spend $3 million putting that building up, it better be a long-term lease to make sure you have a return on your money. Does that make sense? So ground leases is just renting the ground, you build on it, and usually these are long-term leases. Now, because you're building on my property, the lease may state what happens to the building at the end of the lease term. Whether it reverts to the property owner or the tenant is responsible for demolishing it. Yes, it could happen. Right? Take everything down, I might ask. You got it? Any questions here? Okay, so now we're getting into property management. I want you to go to functions of property management. In the simplest terms, a property manager is someone who preserves the value of an investment while generating income as an agent for the owners. The property manager is expected to merchandise the property and control operating expenses so as to maximize income. So my priority is to make sure that your property increases in value and generates as much income as possible. That's my priority as a property manager, right? A property manager chooses the best possible means to carry out the agent's responsibilities and has more authority and discretion than an employee. A manager should maintain and modernize the property to preserve and enhance the owner's capital investments. The manager carries out these objectives by securing suitable tenants, collecting rents, caring for the premises, budgeting and controlling expenses, hiring and supervising employees, keeping proper accounts, and making periodic reports to the owner. Before you work as a property manager for somebody, just like as a salesperson, you must have something called an agreement, right? Independent contractor agreement. In this case, management agreement. This agreement creates an agency relationship on top between the owner and the property manager. Now the property manager is usually considered a general agent, whereas most real estate brokers function as special agents. You guys remember the difference between these? Do you guys know the difference between this? A general agent, universal agent, special agent, so on. Anybody? Universal agent has full powers. Full powers to do something on your behalf that will benefit you. So I don't need your authorization to do anything. I will sell your house if I have to. Right? A general agent, so property manager, has some powers. So they will handle your property for you, but they still need your authorization for certain things. Okay? And the special agent, us, traditionally we're special agents because we handle one specific capacity only, which is either selling, buying, or renting. Correct? Yes? So that is chapter 3. Of course, the property manager is charged with the same fundamental responsibilities of agency, which is cold, care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. The management agreement should be in writing and should cover the following points. This is common sense. Description of the property, right? I need to know which property I'm managing, right? The time period of the agreement will be in force. Definition of your responsibilities. The extent of the manager's authority as an agent. How often you should report. How much you're going to get paid for managing. Allocation of costs, so budgeting. Everything should be written down in that management agreement that gives you the authority to handle certain things, right? So we're going to start with budgeting expenses. Operating expenses. Do you guys know what operating is? Operating expenses? Great. So right above operating, I want you to write fixed expenses or costs of operation. For you to be open, every month you have rental. Every month you have electrical bill. Every month you have a water bill. Does that make sense? These are the fixed expenses we have to deal with. You have a salary employee, you have to pay them. Property taxes, you have to pay them. Insurance, you have to pay. These are fixed. So the costs of keeping the business open, operating expenses. You also have to prepare yourself for variable expenses, such as repairs or decorating, right? These are variable, don't happen all the time. And also supplies. Good so far? Next, capital expenditures. You know we need like major renovations once in a while, right? Let's say we need to do the whole roof. It's not a variable expense, it's something we know about, right? We need to do the whole roof, replace one day. Is that cheap? No. So we should prepare for that capital, right, expenditure. In case of large-scale construction, the expenses charged against the property's income should be spread out over several years. When can we replace the roof? Next month? Next year? 5 years? Let's figure it out and divide it by those years. So every income, we take a portion towards that goal, the capital expenditure. You got it? Almost like going on vacation. Every year, you should go on vacation 2 or 3 times. You should. I'm not saying you do. But you should. You should de-stress. Right? Decompress a little bit. How do you do that? Well, how much does a vacation cost? Wherever you go. $1,000, $2,000, $3, $4, $5. Whatever it is. Even if it's just a getaway. But you have to. Right? Figure out that amount And for every income you have, you put aside a portion just for that goal, a capital expenditure. You got it? You want to buy a house, you need to have down payment. Every month, put some aside towards that. Pay yourself first, then all the other expenses. Okay? I'm going to teach you about that in chapter 17. Pay yourself first. Renting the property. A property manager, right, does not rent the property. A leasing agent does. And it says right here that the role of the manager in managing the property should not be confused with that of a broker who acts as a leasing agent and is solely concerned with renting space. Can we have both, be a property manager and a broker that rents the space? Yes. We have to know the difference between them. Property manager may use the services of a leasing agent, but the agent does not undertake the full responsibility of maintenance and management of the property. Okay? How do we establish rental rates? Well, the same way we establish the values of houses. How do we establish the value of a house? Comps, comparables. So consideration must be given to the prevailing rates in comparable buildings and the current level of vacancy in the property to be rented. It's called supply and demand. Next paragraph it says, and I'm going briefly because as a salesperson, there's not many questions for property management. But the next paragraph says, if a high level of vacancy exists, an immediate effort should be made to determine why. A high level of vacancy does not necessarily indicate that rents are too high. The trouble or the problem may be you, the manager. And this is true. Sometimes people don't want to live in a certain place because of the way it's being managed. The place is nice, but you know what I'm talking about? It happens. So, the manager should attempt to identify first the problem and correct the problem, rather than just lowering rents. Some places you can even give the rent for free. The people that run it, nobody wants it. You understand? So it's not the raising or lowering rents that will fix the problem. Conversely, a high percentage of occupancy may appear to indicate an effective rental program, but it could also mean that the rental rates are too low. With an apartment, house, or office building, any time that the occupancy level exceeds 95%, right? We go back to supply and demand. If it's rented over 95%, that means there's a lot of demand, and now there's not enough supply, correct? There's only a few units left. So, when there's not enough of something, but there's a lot of demand for it, what happens to the prices? Go up. So serious consideration should be given to raising rents. You guys got it?
Mm-hmm.
Next. Collecting, actually let's go to tenant selection. How do we select tenants? Well, you got to make sure they fit the space. If I'm a residential tenant, am I going to bring you here? No, because this is commercial. So that's one of the things you have to understand. Each tenant must fit the area that they want to be in, right? So the broker, the property manager, all these people involved must know exactly what type of tenant we have. How do we collect rents? Through the property manager, right? How do we effectively collect rents? By having a good screening before we rent. So a property manager should investigate financial references given by the prospect, local credit bureaus, and when possible, the prospective tenant's former landlord. You got it? So a background check, that's what we're saying. Where it says maintaining the property, we have hiring employees versus contracting for services. I just have a simple question here. I have a 100-unit apartment building, as an example. 100-unit apartment building. What is the most common problem I'm going to have in this building?
Noise complaints.
The most common problem. Stuff that I need to either hire an employee or contract for services.
Plumbing.
Plumbing, period. That is the most common problem in high occupancy buildings. Plumbing. Now, if it's 100 units, is this problem going to be a yearly problem, quarterly problem, monthly problem, weekly, or maybe daily problem?
We don't know.
Daily problem. 100 units, I guarantee you, every day somebody's going to clog a toilet or a drain or something that's going to damage another property in the building. Daily. Does anybody know how much it costs for a plumber to come out, more or less?
Just for the plumber to show up, it costs $80.
Just for them to show up?
Just for them to show up. But that's
Certified plumbers?
yeah.
Let me get that contact.
Yeah, I got you. It's just for them to show up. Then whatever the problem is extra.
Most companies, professional companies, they are charging the show-up fee, the travel for my office fee, right? And include at least 2 hours of work. At least. If it's less, we'll give you money back. If it's more, you already prepaid some, so just give you the difference. And most of them charge an average of $350 because they're including already some hours, okay? And the travel time. Yes, there are companies out there that it's free estimates, right? There's some that will charge $80 just to show up, but on average, $350. Now, if it's a daily problem, it's 365 days in a year, times $350 a day. Don't you think it's better to hire somebody to be the superintendent who happens to be a licensed plumber? It makes sense, right? So instead of contracting for services, you hire an employee or super. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
What about if my property is a two-family? Should I hire a plumber to be my salaried employee when I have a two-family? No, because the problems are not going to be as common. So the decision should be based on a number of factors, including the size of the building, complexity of the tenant's requirements, and availability of suitable labor. So there's a lot of questions here to whether we hire somebody or we contract per service, okay? Insurance. One of the most important responsibilities of a property manager is to protect the property owner against all major insurable risks. In some cases, a property manager or a member of the management firm may be a licensed insurance broker. Now, why would you be property manager and insurance broker?
Commission, right?
Absolutely. Look, I love the real estate business, but I also do insurance. Because real estate business is usually a one and done. It's a big check, but it's one and done. So unless I acquire more and more clients to get more and more closings, I don't get paid again. With insurance, you get something called residuals. So you get paid today for the sale of this policy, but then every year that it renews, you get a residual income. So every year, I get renewals of policies that I'm like, all right, thank you. I don't even know where it came from, but it's good. Does this make sense? So if you intend to be a property manager, get your insurance license. Think about it, 100 units that you're the property manager, right? You need to insure the building, so one commission, right? The tenants they must have renter's insurance, another type of commission. If the tenants have cars, they need auto insurance. Right? If the tenants have health, they need health insurance, just in case they don't have health one day. And if they have a life insurance. So 5 extra ways, besides being the property manager and having a salary, 5 extra ways to make money. Gotta be smart about it. It's right there, right, ready for the picking. They must have these things, at least the renter's insurance, and the building must be insured as well. So that's why you can be also an insurance broker. Okay? Next page. Final decisions, however, must be made by the property owner. I already mentioned this. And for you to be an insurance broker, you must pass the state examination. Like, you have to go to class, pass the state examination, and be able to sell insurance. Management field. For those interested in pursuing a career in property management, most large cities have local associations of building and property owners and managers that are affiliated with regional and national associations. The Institute of Real Estate Management was founded in 1933 and is part of the National Association of Realtors. Members may earn the designation of CPM, Certified Property Manager. We mentioned this at the end of chapter 3. The Building Owners and Managers Association International is a federation of local associations of owners and managers, primarily of office buildings. Why would you participate in these things, in these groups? Because you get the experience, their mistakes, what to do, what not to do. That's why you want to be part of these, if you intend to be a property manager. If not, avoid it for now. Focus on other things. And the very last thing it says right here, CAI. This is mainly tested in Florida and New York, but you have to know that CAI, Community Association Institute, is a nonprofit organization founded in 1974 to research and distribute information on association living and offers training and designation in specialized management. Okay? Do you guys have any questions? Who's going to be a property manager? Anybody? I don't have many, but some people like it. I got Shaisha watching from home. She's a property manager. So this might be the thing. All right. Any questions? Yes, no, maybe? We still have 12 minutes to burn in case you guys have questions. No? All right, go home. I'll see you tomorrow. Guys, I cannot stress enough, we're in the second half. Make sure you study.